Yeah, how's it going, guys? That is called Do You Remember? And that's from my first record, which is available on all streaming services. And that is, I think Walter is on that record, but not on that tune. So it's kind of funny. Probably you guys know Walter from everything else. How's everybody doing? Thanks so much for joining me today on a Thursday, as opposed to, well, a Thursday if you live in the proper hemisphere. And yeah, yesterday I had to go to the doctor. So I had to get a hearing test and earplugs fit. And I was stunned, as was my audiologist, how good my hearing is for a guy who's got tinnitus. And I thought I would be bad, but it turns out I was actually really good. So yes, apparently wearing earplugs for the majority of your life does make a difference. So I'm pretty psyched about that. It's those things when you get older. Hey, my ears are still good. I can still walk. All right, so first thing, I have a masterclass coming up this weekend. A Zoom masterclass called Blues Arpeggios. Got the link over there. BB's here today helping out, of course. And that is going to be 25% off. You can't make it live. You can catch it on the replay anytime you want. So that's over there. Also, it's just been announced for you guys who are in England or Europe in general, or you want to travel from the States, I will be teaching guitar breaks in Shropshire, England, November 22nd to 24th. And the link is in there as well. And that'll be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to it. But before then, the masterclass is coming up. And also, I got a little sale going on my foundational blues licks, 50% off. If you guys want to check that out. So, as you may or may not know, I have a tour coming up in the Czech Republic and Austria for the majority of September. September 10th or 9th. No, 11th. September 11th I start. And then I'm all the way through to the end of September. So, been going back and forth, and Lyle is here, who's been very helpful in some advisory capacity from phone calls about what amps I'm going to be using over there. At first, I was thinking of using an FM9, and then I thought better of it. I talked to John Cordy, and I'm not really familiar with the whole front of house thing and the flat response speakers, so I am going to use a real amp, and I talked to my friends over at Marshall. And Marshall is hooking me up. So, nothing like a Marshall or a Two-Rock. But so Marshall's being my pals and they're hooking me up. So let's talk about what I'm going to use in my pedal board. All right, so boom. All right. So Bo is hanging out with us today. I know it's a bit of a tight squeeze. I got to fit everything in here. This is a bit janky, but it still holds on pretty well, and it fits in the case, so that's all cool. So I've been messing around with this. This covers all my tunes, and since it's a solo gig, well, it's a quartet, but we're doing the songs for my record, and I like certain things that I like to have on my board at all times. So there's still some playing around with what's going to be in this spot, and we could talk about it. Maybe you guys can give me your opinion on what you think should go in there. All right, so there's a ton of stuff going on. So the first thing, I am running into, I have a distortion. Okay, I'm running into my Marshall, just like it'll be there, and I'm running into largely the bass channel. Though I have it internally jumpered, I'm running the amp clean, and that's probably what I'll be doing at the gig, so I can control the volume. I'm going to be running a 212 cabinet, thanks to Lyle and my friend Matt Wells discussing things about what speakers. So 212 cabinet with a 65 watt cream backs. So that is so I don't mistakenly blow a speaker. And we can talk about backups, and we'll talk about amps and different shows coming up. But I'm gonna have a Marshall 1987X, or Marshall said they're gonna try to hook me up with it, fix it as a 1986, which would be cool because that's less gain, a little warmer. It's generally the sound I like, as opposed to the full on in your face 87X, but I'll be running it clean. So the reason why I'll be running it clean, you might say, why are you running a Marshall and running it clean? So I can handle the volume all together. I can use my pedals. I can run everything into the front end of the amp. I find that easier, especially when I don't know what is going on in the room. And that's almost always the case because the rooms are all different sizes. So this gives me a whole total handle on everything. All right, and we can get to questions in a little bit, but let's start the signal chain. So I'm going into the Argonaut, which is it's not quite an Octavia. It's the Octavia without the fuzz. What's the name of that pedal? That's hard to get. I don't know. Well, you'll hear it in a minute. Then I'm going out into my tuner, which I also have functioning as a buffer. And then that tuner goes into my Univibe and out into the Gladio SC, into the Vemram Landau, into the Vemram Shanks, out into my Layla, I think I'm pronouncing it right, volume pedal. And that goes into the El Capistan, and that goes out into the Flint. And I'll talk about what all these are here. So let's hear the bass tone. So, dry. Now, will I have an overdrive on? Sometimes I leave the Vemram as my always on. So I like having a bit of a broken up amp, and I can roll that back by using my volume knob. So let's add some reverb. So I can obviously ride how much reverb I want depending on the room. So I like the Flint because it's got reverb and tremolo. So here, there's sort of my bass tone. I'm really comfortable with the Shanks. It's not an inexpensive pedal, but I it's just the one I really have kind of bonded with the most for the past few years. It is sort of a takeoff on a Nobles, I'm told. Though, sometimes I've tried Nobles and this sounds a little different. So there's so many good overdrive pedals. God, there's so many. And I've got a few more like that I'm trying to decide upon. And boy, there's so many, right? There's like the Lightspeed, which is in the running, which is a great pedal. The Heavy Hand by Kingtone, that's really good. Sort of like a blues breaker thing. Of course, hold on. If he shows up in the chat today, there's Keith with the bus pedal, which is really great as well. So, kind of deciding. So I'm always going to go with the one I've been using forever. And one thing I really like about this pedal, in particular, is that it cleans up really well and it's very ampy. So, kind of roll back the volume. I can ride the gain depending. These pickups are a little hotter. I put the noiseless pickups back in this guitar because I realized I didn't have a noiseless Strat and I really need one. When I go on the road, Michael Tuttle is actually making me a guitar. I'm super psyched. And we're going to put noise-free pickups in it just because then, do real single coils sound better? Yeah, probably. But not if you're dealing with hum all the time. So, I like being able to play a ballad and not have 60 cycle hum going on. So see, the volume's up. You don't hear anything. So these are the DiMarzios. The DiMarzio areas, I think they're great. I've talked about them before. So I put them back in this guitar, so this is sort of like the, I don't want to say bang around guitar, but I'm not going to change out pickups in an old guitar. Okay, so there's a number of ways I can do this. I can do this always on, and I can think about stacking. Let's go through this first. Now I'm going to hit my delay. So I've got 3 delay settings, which I will change when I get on the gig. So one thing that you guys want to think about is when you're dialing in your tones at home, it's like nothing like it's going to be in the real world. I mean, when you think about how much low end you're going to get, how much more low end you're going to get, or how much more high end, it's hard to tell at this volume. So when I get to the one rehearsal we'll have the day before, that's when I'll start to dial things in. So I'm going to have 3. So what I'm getting at here is the delay settings may not be exactly the way I keep them. So the first one, well, is off here, And the first one's going to be that kind of like, that quick slap back. So that's kind of that Robin Ford thing. Totally stole it from him. And I'll dial that in a bit more. The El Cap does not have a digital readout, so I just kind of do it by ear. But I like that sound. So now the next one is sort of what I usually always have. For sort of a lead playing thing. So if I'm playing rhythm guitar, you know, it's a bit more funky or something like that, I'll turn it off, or I'll go to that. So I really like that I can do this with the multi-switch. So there's my sort of lead number 1. Or, you know, whatever it is I want to play. So now the next one is the sort of the next level above. So we go between those two. Like a lot lighter. No, sorry, there we go. It doesn't go immediately, so I gotta, when you're demoing it on a song, and a tune, you won't notice that. Okay, so, and this is my tap. I have it a little darker sounding because when you turn up, I like a bit more of a murky delay, kind of a bit more moody, and I really love the El Capistan. This is version 2. It's one of my favorite pedals. I've been using the original one for years, and the switch is about to die on me. I know it's going to die at some point, so I bought the new one. Now, you might say, why don't I use the spring reverb in here? I just don't have enough control over it. Let's hear it. I think it sounds cool, but... Oh, I got to turn this on. So, where is it? See what I mean? Like, it's cool, but I don't have the control over it. Now, let's just talk about a buffer thing for just a second. I have the buffer right here after the Argo. If I had the Argo makes this Univibes, I'm sorry, Octavia sort of thing. So, like the song that you might have checked out on the intro, that song starts off with that kind of sound, with that kind of delay. But if I have a buffer before this, just the way, I guess this is germanium in there, it doesn't work. It doesn't sound the same. It sounds weird. It doesn't do the thing it's supposed to do. So this is right in. There's the buffer on, so that's giving me some good signal from my cable into the pedals. And the Flint, I have the buffer on because there's a really nice high quality buffer at the end in the Strymon stuff. So I don't have the buffer on here. That's why the reverb didn't work. So I have this one, I turn it off. There's no bleed over on it. I'm going to mess with that. This one I have the buffer on. I'm always pretty much going to keep the reverb on. So that's the buffer at the end, and there's the buffer one pedal in. Okay, so let's talk about the Flint now, because I got reverb. And a few of my tunes have tremolo, so I've set the tremolo on here. Right? Little much for that song, but I have to work those out on a rehearsal. So now I've put this Strymon switch right here for the tap tempo, for the tremolo, which is pretty cool, and that's obviously indicated by that. I'm not using it as a favorite switch, I'm using it as a tap tempo. So I really like the Flint. Is it my favorite reverb or favorite tremolo? I'm not exactly sure, but together it's really hard to beat both of them in one box. I have the old, it's around here on the floor because I was messing around. I have the old full tone, the smaller tremolo, which is really beautiful. I love the sound of that thing. And, but this is a really, I think it sounds great. And I can also get a bit of that Univibe tremolo if I want. A harmonic tremolo, but I do have a Univibe. But that's not really Univibe in me. Okay, so back to this. Here's my tremolo. It's pretty sweet. So now, if we go over here, I've got the Univibe. All right, so I like the sound of the Univibe before overdrive. That's kind of the way Hendrix did it. I just think it sounds best there, personally. Afterwards, it just doesn't sound right. You can mess with it. It's like, I always like those time-based effects, besides delay. I mean, like the swishy effects, chorus. I like those before the overdrive. Sounds like Hendrix, or it sounds like Van Halen, as opposed to after the overdrive, where you should experiment if you're not sure. You might like it after. That's up to you. It's just a taste thing. When I hear a Univibe, that sounds like it right when it comes before the overdrive. Okay. So then these two together. There we go. All right, so now this is where it starts to get kind of fun and interesting as well. So let's just hear the Gladio SC by itself, which I really like. It's got a lot of body to it. So it's a bit more of a, it was Emilio, you guys probably know, designed it to kind of sound like Robin's guitar tone on whatever, Shuffle, Cannonball Shuffle. But what I like about this, and on neck, on a Strat, and I found the Shanks, as much as I love it, it's a bit mid-scooped. So this, if I put the two together, fills in those mids. Watch. So I can start to think about, dialing in the clean here to get a little more body to it. So those are stacked, which is a really nice option to have. So if you notice, when I go between these two volumes, they're kind of at unity gain. And the reason why I do that is I'm pushing the front end of this with not as much volume, so I don't get a huge volume boost. I just get a little bit more overdrive, so I dial in how much overdrive and low end I want in the pedal, right? To kind of work the two together. Now I could do this, punch the front end of the pedal with a ton of volume, but the problem is you get a ton of volume in the boost. So it's a different way of approaching it. So if you look at Eric Johnson's pedal board, when he has the BK Butler Tube Screamer and he has his fuzz face, he's not pushing the front end of the amp, this is my understanding, what it seems like, super, super hard. He's just gain staging with the right pedal, so he's getting more overdrive and maybe not too much more volume. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I'm working on with those two. So I could use this by itself. I can use this by itself. I gotta match them out. All right, then here. There we go. So different frequencies going on there, which is really nice, especially if you want to change it up for a tune or something. And if I want to stack the two, like I said, pay attention when I'm playing too. Pretty cool, right? So this is one where I'm on the fence. This is a great pedal, the Vemriam Landau Butter Machine. Just a little, it's tweaky and it's loud. So here, gonna be more of a distortion. So I kind of like that as an option. So I'm getting more distortion. If I run it without this, at this volume, it sounds better through the real amp. That makes sense. Like I'm running through the aux. So there's some frequency that goes on when you crank that through an amp. It's huge sounding. It's great. So these two together. I can work out that volume. So that's pretty cool. So now, that's all three. So people ask me, like, why do you have 3 overdrives? That's why. So I can stack them and I can have a lot of fun. I'm playing 2 sets each night. So for me, that's going to be something I want to do to keep it fun and sort of exciting. All right. So next up, let's now what's with the volume pedal? Well, as I talked about with stacking and all this, I have a master volume now on the floor. Right? So if I'm playing through a real amp, that's going to be, it's going to be loud in the room. So I learned this. When I did those church gigs years ago, often things were off of the pedal board, and I want to get more distortion, and I'm trying to get the volumes right, and you're in a room, and you're like, what am I going to do? The volume pedal after the overdrive, and the reason why I'm doing that is because then the effects are untouched, right? So they're kind of... Right, so if I put the volume pedal here, at the beginning of the chain, it's going to act like this, and that's going to change my gain by riding back my volume knob. So I put it later, so it's just like a master volume on the floor. And that works out really nicely when I want to do something. Let's see if I turn this, I want to come for solo a little bit. I can control that just on the floor in real time with my foot. So that's kind of it. So let's put a few of these on. I'll get some questions. Univibe, the Gladio. The whole Hendrix thing, and then the Octavia. And then with the Lando. So any combo of those? All right, tuner, of course, And I think that's it. Pretty cool. Now it covers everything I want it to do. So let me see if we've got any questions, guys. Happy to answer some questions. Let me run through this. All right. Do the pop-up window. Hold on. Pop-out chat. It's easier to deal with. Okay. So, first of all, thanks everybody for being here. Of course, BB last minute, because I'm last minute. Jeff, thank you for doing it today. Son Sound, my knees hurt. Victor BB, Jason Carter, Kurt Schaffenberg, Tommy Rapper, Matt Gibson, what's up, man? Everybody's here. Lyle, what's going on, man? Set the controls for the Heart of the Sun, for those who don't speak Pink Floyd acronym. Absolutely. Joe Urbanowski. Everybody. Marshall. I love the Brady Bunch reference. See if we got any questions. And the barefoot buttons that I put on were just, there's different heights of the pedals. And okay, let's talk about that for a second. So there's real logical stuff in my mind. I'm almost, if I put the two taller barefoot buttons here, I don't have really big feet, but there's always a chance, when you have like a little pedal that's got two, everything here, but regular size pedal that's got two foot switches on it. I have a hard time with those because on a gig, I'll step on both. So I don't really love regular sized pedals with two switches because I just mess it up. So I'm fine with the Strymon, they separated, but this doesn't matter if this is on, because if I turn it off here, it turns off the pedal. Like, so the multi-switch overrides that. So if I put the tap tempo with the barefoot switch on the tap tempo, thank you very much, it's raised up so I can hit that and not worry about turning on and off. Same exact thing with the Flint with the reverb. So this is a little raised, so when I want to hit that on for the tremolo, it's cool and it's not in any way going to turn this on or off. I don't think I've ever turned these on or off by accident on gigs. Smaller pedals that go close together, I have definitely done that. So I like the barefoot stuff, and these are just lower down, so I just put them there. I kind of created a little riser. Just took two shims and glued them together and put some dual lock on it. That works too, but this is just fine. Keeps it a little down, a little lower. And I tried this whole thing standing up and it works just fine. You got to trust your pedal board standing up. Like, you design it and you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then you go to the gig and you're stepping on two things at once. Now this is all being powered by Strymon stuff. It's a Strymon, see if I can turn this over. Get that, there we go. The Zuma and the Ojai extension. I haven't really tied it all up in the back yet because I'm still kind of experimenting and building the pedal board, but I'll put everything nice and tight with the clip ties and all those zip ties and all those kind of things. All right. You got to have a Boss pedal board on your board. I don't have anything wrong with Boss pedals. I just, I'm just trying to get the most expensive pedal board I can possibly get. I could put my KTR in there and just be a total jerk. Okay, Lyle was saying Univibe before the drive is why my old overdrive design had an insert before the overdrive. There you go. Yeah, I think it sounds much better. Love the painter's tape over the two bright LEDs. Yeah, that's the reason for those. Some people ask me, like, why do you have the painter's tape? Because sometimes on gigs, man, you get blinded by these lights. And people say, well, you can take some like sandpaper and scratch it. I don't want to do that. Put the little painter's tape over it. I think that's the way to do it. It's never come off, and I feel like that it's been really successful for me. It works out really well. Beats wearing welding goggles to save your eyeballs. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Keith? You're here. I see that you're here, man. Thanks. Sorry, Jeff, I can't look at the top side jacks on the same pedal board as sideways. Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. It all comes down to, I got to bring it on an airplane. I got to travel with it. And I need all the pedals I need to make it work. So the top and the side jacks, some of my favorite pedal companies use side jacks, and some of my favorite top ones use top jacks. As my mom used to say, beggars can't be choosers. My OCD is not that deep, thank God. It's pretty bad, but not that bad. Notice the heat of battle needle mode on the tuner, right? Do you ever use much chorus, or is it more of an 80s thing? I do like choruses. I have that really cool, the Way Huge Blue Hippo. I like it. It's just very much of a sound, right? It's very much of a 80s sound. I love the way Mike Landau uses it. I love that. But the thing I like about let's just take a look at this for a second. Get some of those kind of... So that is the vibrato setting on a Univibe, and I love that sound. Kind of a little bit of that B3-ish. You know? So that's a fun setting on that. Just have to remember to do that before the song. Two must-haves, Kevin Kazmai. Compound radius fretboard, amps with front-facing dials that can be shelved. 7 1/4, my favorite. So here's the thing about 7 1/4. Some people's like, oh man, they play terribly if they're not well fretted. That's the thing. Someone like Michael Tuttle, his 7 1/4. People are like, this is 7 1/4. I'm like, yeah. So this is 7 1/4. It's a Fender fret job, but my friend Matt at 30th Street, the guitar guru, just kind of made it all play great. So it doesn't feel like often what we think 7 1/4 would feel like. I really do like the sound of 7 1/4. Yes, I think they sound different than 12-inch, but the compound radiuses feel a bit weird to me. I can play a 10-inch radius, but on Strats, just because I got so used to playing my old one, 7 1/4 is my favorite. And also, I'm not shredding and all that kind of stuff. So, amps with front-facing dials so they can be shelved. Yeah, I like seeing the front-facing dials. Am I coming to Hawaii? No. Are you coming to New York? If you swapped out the Cornerstone for a bus, you could couldn't you straighten out your Argonaut? I think you're trying to push your own thing there. I know it's a little annoying, but you got to do what you got to do. In a perfect world, everything would be totally symmetrical, but it's not. We don't live in a perfect world. It all just sounds good, so that's what I'm going for, and usable. I'm glad to see the space between the Strymons, most of them put against each other, impossible for big. Yeah, right. I've seen those videos from Strymon where they put their pedals right next to each other. I don't know how anybody could do that. I would be stepping on those things, 2 pedals at once. And I don't even have that big feet. I just know I'd mess it up on a gig because you're in a lot of, okay, let me get to the questions and I'll, talk about it. Here we go. BV, the pedal you were trying to remember was the Tycho Brahe Octavia. Thanks, man. No, it was the Octavia. No, there's the one that Doyle was using all the time. That it's not the Zonk machine. It's it's not the Octavia. It's that other one. I'm pretty sure. You know the one I'm talking. I can't remember. The one that Josh Smith uses all that. Anyway, the LED fixes to increase the resistors. Not something most owners can do. All right. Love Pedal Believe. It's the same thing as the Love Pedal Believe, but there's a pedal that is all based upon. That's really crazy expensive. They stopped making it now. Backup power. Jeff, backup power take would do the Chocks. They're great. The Chocks ones are great. I've toured a bunch with Strymons, and I've never had them fail. So, the Chocks are great too. We could. It's one of those things you're like, do I start replacing power supplies? And then I got to get a little quilter amp just in case something falls down on the gig. And, the El Cap can do a great chorus. It can as well. Yeah. But yeah, I don't even think about the power supply failing. Anything can fail. So you need to do a show with Dan and Mick from that pedal show. Please stay tuned. I will be in England on November 22nd and 24th, and we are discussing something like that. This might happen, so I hope that'll be fun. Okay. Yeah, Tetris developer would probably make a great pedal board builder. They have one. What's the guy that the pedal train? It's a pedal train Metro 24. I should talk about that. And I find that I like the pedals to be this way, oriented, a little bit longer than more horizontal, like deeper, like 3 pedals deep. I find I'm, stepping over it, and I'm sure I'll lose balance or something like that. Wearing those big Gene Simmons boots I'm wearing on stage. So I like them a little bit more spread out this way. Why are there so many pedals on my board? That's not the question. Is because it's my gig. If I'm gonna just do a jam, or last gig I did with Matt at the bitter end, I brought like 4 pedals. 3, a reverb, a delay, and a tuner and a boost. Or overdrive. So but for my tunes, it's like the intro tune Then we got right, so it's all right there. I've got another tune. Tremolo. My tune's got tremolo on it. One I think I played a little earlier, the tune called Marta, that's part of the set, which is you know. And there's another tune on my record called Gowanus 5-0, so the tremolo is part of it, and I really like that, having a tremolo. One thing that I also was going to say is why I chose not to go digital, even though there's a lot of upsides to that. One, I'm just not experienced with it, and I really want to be happy, and I want to be happy right away. So I know if I'm plugging into a Marshall to a 212 cabinet with a pedal board, I'm going to be happy, because I've been doing that for 40 years. So tried to get a 2-rock over there. They have no stock anywhere, so that wasn't really going to work out. And we tried, and that's okay. It's all right. So I have to suffer with a Marshall, you know. And one thing about the pedals too is, for me, the pedal is part of the performance. I can turn the pedal into part of the performance, as opposed to pre-programming ideas into a pedal board like the FM9, which I think is a great piece of gear. But if I decide I want to just, you know, turn up my delay in that particular tune and then start to do some, you know, fun oscillating stuff, you know, I can do whatever I want. Which is kind of a fun thing to be able to do on a set. And also, there's a nice infinite hold on this, which you can change the pitch of. So, have more. So when we do a kind of I can get into that whole kind of spaced out thing going on with the pedal, which is a ton of fun. And then I have the preset, so whatever's on here goes back to that immediately. You can do that if you're playing something like a Strymon, not a Strymon, I'm sorry, a Fractal, but you have to think about it all ahead of time, that's what you're gonna do. My friends who were totally adept at using that wouldn't have a problem with it. I would, because I'm not. Trying to think what else. Yeah, that's kind of it, right? I mean, so this covers all of my tunes. So I like having multiple stages of gain, sort of the always on maybe, another always on if I want, or a boost into that. And this one's just sort of the odd man out. I could really do the gig with these two, but I like just having the idea of having just the over-the-top overdrive. So the other pedal I could maybe fit into that would be the Jan Ray, you know, which would be kind of cool. Or I could put this there, and I could fit if I put that there and that there, I could fit the Argo straight. So these are all things. It's a little small, I don't want to say complaint. If VEMRAM you're watching, I love your pedals and thank you. I work with VEMRAM, so, you know, and Gladio, so, you know, I work with the company, so that's cards on the table. You know, they're heavy. They're awesome because they're in this enclosure, but when you have 3 of them on your board, it's like, oh wow, that added a fair amount of gain when I'm moving fair amount of weight when I'm moving my own gear. All right, so do you guys want to hear what the VEMRAM would sound like in place of the Landau? That might be kind of fun. Any more questions here first? Yes, the prescription. Yes, thank you. BB, you're right. It's the Cobb. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that's a takeoff, is my understanding. How much does this board weigh? I haven't actually weighed it yet. I brought a similar one to Europe before the Metro 24, and I take it in overhead. Why do I take it in overhead? Well, it's a good question. Because it'll just go through, they won't take it apart, they just kind of swab it down for explosives. I've heard enough stories from my friends who have checked their pedal boards and have been taken apart and then not put back together well. Or it was like my friend Michael Britt had some cables cut, they closed the thing. My friend at 30 Street Guitars was telling me at one point they took apart the power supply and didn't put the screws back. Like, they just destroyed it. So I always carry that on board, and I've never really had any problems. You just take the batteries out. So they asked were there any batteries in that. So I just take the batteries out, and I've not had a problem internationally with that at all. You know, there's always a first time for everything. And two ways I'm going to do the guitar, which I would either normally do in the past, is sometimes I take a Strat and you take the neck off and put it all in your suitcase. And you have to check the guitar. I might do that. In these streams, are you hearing your amps with no bleed into your speaking mic? I'm running through my monitors, man. It's totally quiet. I'm using the aux, which is right behind me. So this is at like sort of a TV volume. If I muted my mic, you're hearing some of my mic or the strings through the mic and all that, but you're not hearing any actual speaker cabinet right now. I've tried that and it just becomes a big, difficult mess. I can't get the levels right. So this is probably about 8 to 10 pounds, maybe more. And I use dual lock. I've not found any problems with it. I really like the dual lock. And this is so strong, like, you know, like I can lift the whole board up with that Argo sitting on the angle. So it's not gonna break or fall off. I was gonna say something else. I don't know. So, oh yes, and so as a backup, I'm just gonna pick up a Quilter, maybe one of the Super Blocks, 25 watts, which would be enough. I mean, I'm gonna be mic'd on most of the gigs. I could mic just to get me through that. And I'm always gonna bring a backup set of tubes, just in case something happens, because tubes go. So, a set of preamp tubes, two preamp tubes and a set of power amp tubes. And then that. All right, did I get distracted from any questions or any ideas that I was saying? Oh, okay. Yeah, do you guys want to hear? Let me just switch that butter machine out. So let's hear the butter machine. All right. So nothing's too firmly down here just yet. And here's the This is entertainment, folks. All right, so I really like the January as well. Here's the January by itself. I mean, they all sound good. It's like, what am I going to choose? Okay, so here versus this, you know. They both have these great qualities. Kind of, it's got that more sort of spanky top, but this has got a little bit more throat, you know. Especially with that volume. Some things you're not hearing here at gigs, that mid, that this thing's got really kind of pushes you up to the forefront. All right, so if I can do this. So you see what I'm getting at? So like this, or that? Do you guys have a preference from what we heard? They both sound great. This is where I always get kind of torn as to which one I want to use on the gig, because they all sound really good, and that makes it sort of difficult to figure out what I want to do. I'll probably just bring one extra, because you're going to be like, ah, man, that's not working. So I'll probably bring the Landau and the Vemram. And Keith, if he's here, he probably still wants me to check out the bus. So yeah. Oh, thanks, baby. Okay, so Doyle used the Jan Ray with his amps to get these clean bass tone. Yeah, it's a really, let's hear that. It's a great pedal. I mean, like, this is all like embarrassment of riches. I mean, like, now I cranked up the gain. There's a saturation knob. I cranked it up because I can. I mean, that's a great sounding pedal. Lots of tonal controls. All right, so because Keith is here, and I'm open to doing anything. So far, you guys like which one in that spot, the Landau or the Jan Ray? All right, Keith. This is nerdy, guys. All right, so here's Keith's pedal. Hey Keith, which side do I switch that switch? Okay. And this is the JTM 45 side to the left. This all sounds great. Well, that doesn't stink, right? Well, anything David Barber makes is great. So let's try this and that. A lot more mids. This has got more mids than the Marshally sort of thing. Yeah, man. So it's that sounds great too. So it comes down to winner. Okay, now this gear. So that one's the winner right now. So what it comes down to is I'm gonna turn everything up before I go on the stage. But I keep on coming back to, well, I like all of them. How's that for really annoying, right? I like the bus right on the edge. Breakup, yeah. Sounds great. I got our switches. Over there. You're gonna need a bigger board, right? Well, the funny thing is you get on the gig and you're like, all this is gonna sound great. That's the cool thing about any of these pedals I decide on. They're all gonna sound great. The one I'm just so always used to is this, and whenever I don't have it, I'm like, oh, I missed that pedal. I just think there's something about it that's very ampy, cleans up really well. I'm so used to it, part of the sound. It is a little bit light on the mids, so I like what any of the pedals that I put before it do by adding a little bit more of the mids when I want them. There's all sorts of ways you could do this. I could have an EQ pedal, but then you start getting into a bigger board. So I don't know. There's this one right here. So I guess that's the spot that's up for grabs. But what I really love, once again, to kind of, is the quality that the Gladio gives. There's sort of a mids thing to it. It's like some sort of, there's a body to it. It's not as much on the highs. But when you're loud, need those highs. So there's interesting things that happen when you're playing at these bedroom values. You never know how much low end you really need. And sometimes you dial in more high end than you need. So when you go on a gig, you're like, oh, geez, that's where I had that. So you go over and you turn it down because everything is working the way it should. So some things that I hear at this volume through an aux, like it's cool, but it's not necessarily what it's going to sound like at real gig volume. So when I tried to see the Jan Ray, I'm like, oh, I really love that super sparkly high end. And then I remembered that I've always used this doesn't have that same thing going on right now, but on gigs, I end up, every time I stepped on this, I was always like, oh, that sounds awesome. So they all sound awesome. So my point is, you got to know on the gig, you got to actually experiment at volume with the stuff. So I'm going to do that here a bit. It's kind of hard where I live. I don't want to be that kind of neighbor who's just sitting there cranking the stuff. So I might head over to Watchtower Guitars, do a video of maybe with us and them and turning some of this stuff up and try and play it through a Marshall or a Germino that they have there. That kind of lines up with what I'm playing through. All right, any more questions through this totally nerdy gear fest? It's pretty nerdy. I'm sure people, when they watch it on the replay, they're gonna be like, wow. This is the kind of thing, like if my wife were to watch it, she'd be like, oh my God, what are you guys talking about? But it's a good fun hang. Sean Varley, what's up, man? Yeah, it's a tough call. Like, they all sound good. But hey, Keith, do you have any more of these? They had modded G7 for the win. That's one of the two. Now that's just the bus. Listen to that thing. Sounds great. Now, just one thing I do want to point out, and some people say like, oh, why are you playing noiseless pickups? Let's over here. Hold on. That's why. So I like being able to stack that, even that, right? And then I can get to the in-between sounds, but I don't love the in-between sound. I don't want to be stuck on 2 and 4 all night. And sometimes I like tunes that have a lot of overdrive, and then you're just gonna get that. And there's certain clubs, as you guys know, that is really brutal. You know what I mean? Really, really brutal. You want to play a ballad and all you hear is like, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm using the noise-free pickups. I'd rather, this might have a little bit, I think those sound really good. Whenever I play that, okay, when I A-B that guitar to say something like with real singles, I can notice somewhat of a difference. But if I just pick it up and start playing it, I don't miss it. I'm just like, oh, it's what you're playing. Never A-B is what we said. We happen to have them both in black and white right now. I'm going to do a little sales pitch for any of these pedals. But since Keith is my really good friend and so is David Barber, go get one of these. This is like a no. It's just great. I think Cordy's got on his board now too. So that's up for the running. It's up for the running. They all are. Personally, I see only the Gladio and one other overdrive pedals. Stick a fuzz in there instead. Okay, now why don't I use a fuzz on here? That's a good question. I have found, and I love fuzzes, the problem when I'm playing with a quartet, the 4-piece, got a keyboard player, got the effect of the fuzz for me gets kind of lost. And to the audience, these read the same way, and I just find, I've tried, and I love fuzzes, but I end up not using it as much as I would normally, right? With a trio. That's the answer. I think sonically there's something that's a little bit of a different thing going on. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't play fuzzes a ton. I haven't ever played fuzzes a whole ton. I love them, but on gigs, I just find I wrestle with them a bit. I do have my favorite fuzz. somewhere around here. Well, anyway, it's another outlandishly expensive pedal, but this Shanks fuzz is really amazing. And there's a lot of great ones. I love the King Tone one. That's really nice too. Those are great pedals. Did you decide on what guitar you're going to take? Michael Tuttle's making me a guitar, so I hope to be taking that. That should be 7 1/4, Brazilian, not Brazilian, it's in rosewood neck, alder body, kind of lightweight. He makes the great guitars, great frets, so probably going to go with that. And I'm going to put in noise-free pickups in that guitar. You'll see it coming up soon, hopefully. He's just finishing the neck, and it's going to be Lake Placid Blue. So I don't own any blue guitars. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, what brand volume pedal? I think I'm pronouncing it right. Lehle, Lehle. It's the small one. There's a bigger one, and it's too big for me and heavy. This is not heavy. But the cool thing about this pedal is it's powered, so there's no tone suck. And interesting enough, there's a little feature in there that I can boost. I can set to a boost. I don't have it on right now, but if I lean forward, I think you can boost a bit. And then also I can set, there's a boost there that you can actually use this to, it adds in the boost and you're just controlling how much the overall volume is. I think it's great. Volume pedals can often be the real tone suckers, and they break, over time. This is magnets. It's controlled by magnets, so it's got a nice feel to it. You can adjust it with a wrench. And then it's all, there's no moving parts in the sense. There's no string or gears. It's all off of magnets. I think Tesla invented it. All right. Any other questions, guys? I think that kind of covers it. You'll see the end game at some point, which one I decide for, the V2 position. Lots of great options. Keith, this is now in the running. You guys have any ones? The Lando, I love it, but I find that to be the quirkiest of all of them, the butter machine. And if you watched, I think that pedal show did a whole thing. It's an SD9 variant, and it's a whole thing to get used to doing. You know what I mean? It's hey, Keith, where do you find the bus for sale? Sean Barley, there we go. Of course, BB's on top of it. Yeah, there you go. All right. A good question. Lake Placid Blue is the finest custom colors. What sort of bridge will your Tuttle have? Godo, Callahan, he makes his own, which is great. Where's my black strap? Hold on. Oh. That's the interesting thing about Michael. He does everything from top to bottom is his own. So there's Mr. Soft, you can hear him. So this is Michael's bridge. What I like about this one is push-in bar, and you got the little set screw, and you get 6 posts, 6 screw. Yeah, it's great, and it stays in tune great, and it feels like a Strat bar. So I really like Michael's stuff. I think some of them say Tuttle on them. I can't remember, but yeah. So it's basically like a Fender thing, but just a little bit more of a. I love Fender bars, but you don't have to put the Velcro or the Teflon tape around it, and then you don't have to stick the screw in there. So I really like this one. So just tuned in. No wah. No, wahs are too heavy. I like wahs. They're fun. I can maybe like a little bit of a crutch sometimes if I have one. I want to use it too much, and they're just too heavy to bring around. And I hate. This is an expression volume pedal. I hate small size wahs. They just don't feel right to me. I just want the bigger size full one. So I don't bring it. I got this. I was one of the people who got one of these. I bought it the second I saw it go on sale. The Halo Core. I hope they make more of them. I really like this. This is great. It's kind of a simplified version of the Halo. And I thought the Halo sounded great, but I just had a hard time with the interface. And then once again, it was a pedal a regular size pedal with 2 switches right next to each other. And every time I would just turn it on and off. Everything on 10 and just to make sure. Sure, hold on. Wait, I'll use the noisy pickups just to enhance everything. well, I'll turn everything on. So we got tremolo, a lot of delay. You know, seemed like it would have been crazier, but there we go. Hence the noise-free pickups. All right, everyone. I think that was kind of a completely fun waste of time. I think Keith was saying that Roman says you guys sound like you're talking a different language. Oh, it's totally true. But look, you know, anybody who loves this stuff does this. I mean, I could talk about... I was talking about to my friend Matt Wells, who works on my amps as well, the difference between the 1986 and 87, and Lyle was saying the same thing, like you can cut the bright cap if you need to, or you could replace the bright cap and all those kind of things like that. So I could talk about that stuff forever. But once again, when you go on a gig, some of these things, decisions are often made for you. Like I know this always works. So what's going to be in these other positions, you can sometimes can't tell until you're at volume. And then very often I might find out I might never really step on all three unless I need to, because you get a boost from volume and there's a circuit that's created just by volume. There's all sorts of cool variables that you get on there, you know. Not making any more Halo cores, great pedal. You got one from Robert, he signed yours. I hope it makes more. So just go back to that, and I feel like I didn't get it from them. I bought it because I wanted it right away. The Andy Timmons Halo, I think, is a beautiful sound and delay. They've got the smaller version of it, and you have the two switches next to each other. And to tap tempo, you have to hold it down. And it's multiple functions, and I'm just an idiot. It felt really weird for me to do that. Or not weird, I was just messing it up all the time. So I was on Instagram, and I saw this come up, and it's like, okay, it's an on-off tap tempo. One switch has got the Halo thing, Andy's thing, which sounds beautiful. And then there's a quarter note, and then you got a big knob to turn the level with your foot. And I was like, sold! And I ended up getting one of the 300. So I could put on reverb for like $1,000 or something like that. Did you ever own a super reverb? No. I love super reverbs, but they are unwieldy in New York City. I would never, I mean, I hate carrying gear, period. But a super reverb is it's just a beast, you know, to move around. I love them. I think they sound amazing. But in terms of usability in New York and then putting that in your car or something like that, you know what I mean? It's just a bad idea. It's just terrible. I can't do it. And I've used them on some gigs when I was doing I got one or two on gigs as Robin, but it was just like the reissues, and it was just really, it was not, you know, just wasn't dialed in right. It wasn't taken care of, so it was really harsh and gross. So it wasn't like a really well dialed in super reverb, which is one of my favorite amps. In terms of favorite amps, like, you know, I love the 2-Rock stuff. I love a Marshall, and I think we've talked about this before. I think people don't, like a JTM 45, I was thinking about getting one of those on the gig, but I decided against that because for the clean headroom issue. So I'm going to have the tighter response with the solid state rectifier because I want a bit more headroom. I'm just going to run into the amp clean. But a Marshall, if you know how to dial in, a Marshalls have a great clean tone, you know? Right? So I'm really happy with what I'm used to using, which would be a Marshall as well. Desert Island guitar that I own, just a Stratocaster. I got my 64, probably my 64 Strat. That would be the Desert Island guitar. with power, of course, because there would be no power on a desert island. That's, of course, the old question. Strats. And it's funny, like the older I get, I mean, I love my 64, but it's just a really good Strat. Like, this is a great Strat. Michael makes great Strat. I'd be happy if I never played another guitar like than that. You just find one or guitar that you really bond with, and so Strats for me are the best. I think they're the most versatile guitars. People would probably say a Telecasters, but for me, I'm most at home on a Stratocaster. I love playing humbucker guitars. I love the PRSs and all that, but Strat is the best. Now, why do I want to tour with the Strat or a Fender-like guitar? Just because they're fairly indestructible. I don't like traveling with Gibsons because there's, as my friend said many years ago, it's not if you're going to break the headstock in your Les Paul, it's just a matter of when. And that's kind of could be true. So I really like the idea of just the maple neck with the bolt on, and I can throw it in a gig bag. I can put it in a reasonably good flight case, and I'm pretty confident nothing's going to go wrong. I usually put something between the frets and the strings. Michael sends out, like a lot of people do, like a plastic sheet, kind of little thing that goes underneath the strings, in between the strings and the frets. So if I doesn't get banged, I usually send it with that if I put it in the flight case. So the flight case I'm just using is it's one of those SKBs. I think it's fine. I don't have a Strat flight case like the Kelton. I have a Kelton from my Les Paul because it's an old Les Paul, but those cases weigh about as much as the guitar does or more. So for a Strat, I'm going to just throw it in a reasonably good case, like a molded SKB, which I think are super solid and cool. So really good. The Keltons are great. There's not a lot of room in them, so you can't put your strap. You can't throw anything in them. That's one thing. I like to have something in the case. Also, which gig bag do you prefer? I like the mono stuff. And funny enough, I was talking to my friend over at Watchtower Guitars that I still have an old Reunion Blues, like one of the Cordura ones. I've had it since like college. And it's great. So I still use that one sometimes because it's so thin and just old school. People are like, is that it? I'm like, yeah, it's an old one. So it's lasted forever. I had that thing for like 30 years or something. It's crazy. But I really love the mono stuff. I think it's great. I think it's light. The Reunion Blues is cool. I just happen to have monos. I liked them and just got more. The Sleeve or the M80, those are both great. But there's the Vertigo, I like that one a lot too. Do not allow 412s into Marshall in Manhattan anymore. Well, you got to move them. You can do whatever you want if you want to move them. But say something like the Bitter End, like Osnoy's got his Two-Rock 212. No, we got a Two-Rock 412 there. And he's like, oh, you're always free to use it, but it's way too much speaker for that room. It's just too much. So for me, that's like a 112 room. 412s in that room is just like, I mean, he does it. But when I did the gig with Robin plugged in the 412. He's like, oh man, this is way too much. And I agree. I'll check out the Polytune 3. I think it's great. The Polytune 3 is awesome. And it's got the buffer in it, which I really do like. Newer Gator and ProTech bags are nice. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out now. But I have experience with the I-Series molded, who was that? I just said it before. SKB cases. I think those are really nice. And I do really like there's the one below that. It kind of looks like a thermometer case. And I've traveled to Europe with it like 4 times. And it's been fine. It's just like a regular molded case. And I've not had any problems with it. Knock on wood, who knows. But it's not super heavy duty. But it's got the ATA locks. And it seemed to work well. I'm going to probably end up just going with that. The lighter, the better. The other thing I could do, which Michael Tuttle is not always crazy about, you take the neck off. I did that one tour, that worked great. You put your guitar in your suitcase, big suitcase. My old Reunion Blues gig bag, I put the guitar in there, folded the gig bag, put it on one side of the suitcase, put the neck next to it and wrapped it up. And I got there and screwed it back on, and Bob's your uncle, as the expression goes. And that was great. So I didn't have to deal with the flight case. Finally, I've gotten to the point, if I fly Delta, which I do, and I got the Sky Miles and all that, I will get preferred seating, not not first class, but the extra leg room, and that gets me, and I have the card that gets me on first, so I can almost always get a guitar and a gig bag overhead. I've never really had a problem with Delta. So I'll travel with my old guitar domestically, but internationally, no, I'm never gonna. There's no. That's really difficult, really difficult. So I always just check the guitar, and I'm not worried about anything because you don't want to get to the gate and then they're like, "Sorry, you got to check it," and you're like, "Oof," you know. So it works better with Tele. It's not so much Strats. I don't have any problems with Strats. Like I've just put them together and taken them apart so many times. Like it's a bit more of a pain because I have a floating tremolo. But in terms of that, and what I love about, say, traveling with Michael's guitar, Tuttle, is the truss rod. He's got a little thingy over there, so I can adjust the truss rod without taking the neck off. So if it has to settle for a second, real easy to do. Also, you know, pretty much every Fender I own has a shim in the neck somewhere. And Michael's guitars don't. He's just so spot on. So I just put it on, screw it back on, and good to go. So that's something to think about. Telly's, I mean, I think, why do you say that, BB, with the Strats not so much? Is it because of the tremolo? I haven't really, I just put new strings on and string it up. I just act like I'm just putting on new strings. It's been cool. So I'm just curious what you thought about that. All right. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here. I know the Vemram Buddy G Shanks. It's over here. It's on the floor. It does stack incredibly well. So many things, you know. So many of those things. All right. Okay, the tremolo. Okay, yeah, right, BB, right, sure. So the way I look at it, like it says, I just take the neck off and I just take all the strings off. So it's just like I'm restringing the guitar. It is a bit of a pain with the float, but yeah, I don't play Tellys. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I've got my masterclass coming up, my Blues Arpeggios masterclass. Please check that out if you want to check that. That's on Saturday, this coming up Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, July 11th. And if you miss it or can't make it live, that's okay. You can watch it on the replay anytime you want after you enroll. So learning how to incorporate dominant seventh arpeggios into your blues one note at a time, using your pentatonic scales as your basis of all that. So that it really makes it much more useful than slogging through all your arpeggios and trying to figure out how to use them. So I try to help you figure out how to use them. Also, I have my Foundational Blues Licks course on sale for right now. Also, if you happen to be in England at the end of November, I will be there as well, teaching with guitar breaks with those guys, and then hopefully be stopping over at that pedal show, and then I'll be going down and visiting some family in Scotland and in London. So I'm looking forward to that. July 15th. Today's July 11th. Thank you. Today's July 11th. Yeah, I had that right. Yeah, it's on Saturday, which is July 13th. 13th. 1-3. 13th, yeah. Yes, 13th. 15th is Monday. Saturday, July 13th. So I will see you then, and hopefully I'll see you then. And I got a video coming out on Saturday morning here on the YouTube channel. So thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, BB, for everything as always, and thanks for always doing this for me last minute, because I'm an unorganized individual. I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much.